Hello everybody, welcome back to Rachel Reads. My name is Rachel. I love to read and write Christian fiction, and Merry Christmas. Is this coming out the day after Christmas? Hopefully yes, but Merry Christmas. We can celebrate Christmas all year round. If you gotta spend some time with some family, or you're going to see some family this weekend maybe, I hope you had some delicious Christmas food. I hope you just had a very merry time this season. I'm so glad that we have this time of year to worship God and the fact that Jesus was born. And yes, we can celebrate Christmas year round, but I'm glad we focused on this time of year. And for today's video, it is very themed to Christmas, so don't worry. It is the Nativity book tag. I think that's what it's called. The Christmas Nativity book tag. I was tagged by Lindsey over at Lindsey from BFCG. Thank you so much for tagging me. I am so excited to do this. I have not prepped anything unless I remember something from when I watched this video. So these answers are like just going to come to mind, hopefully. Hopefully from my bookshelves. I do have some books in front of me I can pick from. So yeah, let's just get started and see how it goes. Pray it does not take me long to film because I have to leave in about 45 minutes. So chop chop. Merry Christmas. Prompt number 1, The Angel Gabriel, a story that shares the good news of salvation. That book is Fox by Nadine Brandes. There is an allegory for white light. White light is like God or Jesus, and he is the person that if you believe in him and you choose the truth of him, you're kind of like, it's like salvation pretty much. And yeah, our main character, Thomas, I don't want to spoil much, but him and White Light have a lot of great discussions and different things that just lead up to that whole salvation idea. And yeah, this is just an allegory for salvation, but I think it's super beautiful. Number 2, No Room in the Inn, a book that's too big to fit on your shelf standing up. And I don't have very many big books because these shelves are pretty tall. I can adjust them, which also makes a difference. But the tallest book that I know of is The Skin Map by Stephen R. Lawhead. I have read books 1 through 3. I have not read 4 and 5 because I thought it was a trilogy, but I have read this book. I think I gave it like 4 or 5 stars, but it is larger than a normal hardback because here's Fox, which is like your typical hardback size, and here's the Skin Map. It's maybe an inch less. It's a little less than an inch taller, but yeah, it's the biggest book on my shelf. But it does not, like, it fits. But like if I shrunk this shelf to like the shortest position, it definitely would not fit. So yeah, it's pretty tall in my opinion. Prompt number 3, Wrapped in Swaddling Cloths, a book that gives you a cozy feeling. I don't know how much I've talked about this book, but I am picking it because on my Goodreads review, I did mention this as like a comfort read just because there's like not a lot of suspense and action. But the book is The Lady of Galway Manor by Jennifer Dybel. This takes place in 1920 in Ireland. This takes place in Ireland, but it's just a very comforting read because there is like a little bit of action, but most of it takes place like towards the very end of the book. And yeah, it's just a very comforting read. Prompt number 4, Manger, a main character with humble beginnings. The Peasant's Dream by Melanie Dickerson. This is a reverse Cinderella retelling. And our main character, the male main character, has very humble beginnings. He starts out as, I think, a carpenter's son, or he works with wood. He's a wood carver, Frederick. Frederick has very humble beginnings, and we kind of start off with him because he is the main character. Heavenly Host Singing, a book with a musical theme. So in the Carol of the Books tag, I mentioned Anomaly, as well as The Lost Melody by Joanna Davidson-Napolitano, which I love. Anomaly is by Kristen McGee, so I'm trying to think of a different book that has a musical theme to it. So let me look on my shelves, make sure I have one I have not mentioned, and I'll get back to you. I'm going to repeat an answer for my Carol of the Books tag, and that is The Lost Melody by Joanna Davidson-Napolitano. This has, I think, a heavier musical theme than Anomaly. And this is all about Vivian. She is a pianist and she gets put in an asylum. So if that is a trigger, I would stay away from it. But yeah, she's hearing music, but is she? And it has a very strong musical theme. I talk about this in the other tag, but yeah, I love this book. I love Paul Thomas books, they are very, very, very good. They have some great faith content. They're very lyrical and prose, and I love them so much. So yeah, this one I think has the most music out of all books I own. So I will say this one, and I love it. And I love the cover. Number 6, Shepherds and Sheep, a story that contains an animal. I'm going to say for this, Off the Chain by Janice Thompson. This whole series has to do with dogs. So obviously this one has like, there are at least 2 dogs they mainly focus on, and there's a few cats. So yeah, this one, obviously dogs because of the Cocker Spaniel on it. I know Lindsey mentioned she loves books with beagles. If y'all have any book recommendations with like a Boston Terrier in it, I would be interested because we have a Boston Terrier, so that's something I'm interested in. But I love the Cocker Spaniels. I think they're so pretty. So yeah, this series deals with dogs in general. So yeah, I'll say this one because I did mention another book, but I cannot think of any other books that have like a strong theme of dogs at this moment. So yeah, Off the Chain. Number 7, Three Wise Men, a story that involves travel. For this, I'm gonna say Luminary by Krista McGee. This book starts off with our characters traveling, and they do travel, I think, for like a third of the book. Our main character, Tholly, does travel a lot throughout this book. She goes from place to place. Number 8, Gold, a book with gold in the cover. And I actually do have a book for this. It's not yellow, I promise. Book with Gold is Romanoff by Nadine Brandes. This has gold foil on the cover. I don't know how well it'll show up, but yes, this does have some stunning gold on it. I really love it. I think it's super beautiful. This is like one of my favorite covers. I would love to do a whole video on that, but that would probably be a long video. And I really love this book. It's so good. It has great forgiveness themes. Number 9, Frankincense, a book that was gifted to you. Sorry if the camera has shifted a little bit. I had to get a book that is holding up the camera. But that is The Story People by Heather Kaufman. This was the book that was last gifted to me, and I could have picked like almost any book on my shelf. I have such loving family members that give me books, so I could have picked any of those, but this was the last book that was gifted to me. This was gifted by my sister, who you have seen in videos. This is a very sweet Christian contemporary romance. It has 3 hilarious grandmother figures. It's about Ben and Rosemary. Ben owns a bookshop. He is such a sweetheart. And then Rosemary is like a children's illustrator, I think is the title, maybe. Author and illustrator. And yeah, this is just such a good book. 10, Myrrh, a book that made you cry. So y'all have heard me talk about this book a lot recently, and that is The Merciful Scar by Rebecca St. James and Nancy Rue. I will mention if like any sort of self-harm triggers you, I would stay away from this book. The book kind of gets over it eventually, and it has some good faith content that combats it, so if that triggers you, I would stay away. But this was a book that made me cry. There was a certain reason. Here are some spoilers. Please skip ahead like 20 seconds if you don't want to hear. The reason it made me cry, there is like a death of an animal. If that triggers you, do not read this book. Please do not read this book. But yeah, it really made me cry. It was a sweet story. I love our main characters. Prompt 11, Mary and Joseph, a book with a big surprise. That is No One to Trust by Lynette Eason. I talked about this in my recent reads. This book had a very, very, very big surprise that kind of starts off the book, and it's very well written, very good, great faith content. If you really want to hear me fangirl about it, go watch the recent reads, but I think that book has one of the biggest surprises I've read, so I highly recommend it. You definitely should read it. So yeah. Number 12, Jesus, the story with the most Christian content. I actually did not pick like just one book. The whole series has great faith content, but Nadine Brandes' Out of Time series, this is book 1, A Time to Die. This whole series has some of the best faith content I've ever read. I love this. This always strengthens my faith, makes me want to grow in my faith, so I highly, highly, highly recommend it. Yeah, I really love it. There are some just great discussions, great thoughts about faith. I know some of y'all have mixed opinions about Nadine Brandes' fantasy, but I would recommend trying her dystopian. It's just so good. This has some of the best faith content. It has such encouraging themes and discussions, and it's really all about God, and that's what matters. So thank you guys so much for watching today's video. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope God bless you today, and I'll see you next time. Merry Christmas and goodbye.